Welcome back to movementprofessional.com. So in this video I'm going to take a look at 3 different armbar variations with the kettlebell. When we're looking at the shoulder mechanics of an armbar, typically we're going to get our body into an orientation where the bell will be on the sideline of our body in some form of a horizontal abduction. So when we do that, we can look at either trying to over-exaggerate that motion at the front side here and really open up the chest and create a pec stretch, a pec major stretch. We can also look at promoting shoulder external rotation, or we can look at packing the shoulder and creating more of a shoulder internal rotation or a lat and shoulder extensor activation. And it really depends on what our goal is. So if we just have a couple scenarios though, who might do best with what, we want to understand some of the mechanics of the shoulder. So when we're looking at the shoulder and we're talking about the shoulder, we're usually thinking about the glenohumeral joint, which is the ball and socket joint. All right, so moving into external rotation would typically be, if we think about the elbow here, it just moves more up towards the ceiling, so the ball rolls out on the shoulder blade, which would be called the glenoid socket, and then internal rotation would be the opposite. But there's a lot of places to compensate, and when we think about external rotation, a lot of times we just think about getting the arm back anyway. Same thing with horizontal abduction, which would be this movement here. We just think of it as like, all right, if I get my hand back farther, then I must be horizontally abducting more, or I must be externally rotating more. And that's not the case based on what's happening at the shoulder blades and their relationship with the rib cage. So when we think about shoulder external rotation, we want to think about it from the center out oftentimes. And in that case, we would think about the backside of where the shoulder blades meet the rib cage, and we'd want to keep that space between the shoulder blades as open as possible. Because if that comes together, if we retract our shoulder blades more, well, yes, that will bring the arm back, but that's not happening with shoulder external rotation. That's happening by bringing the shoulder blades closer together. So if we're trying to promote actual shoulder external rotation, we want to keep that space open. So our cueing would be to reach, and we would want to create more of a stack position. We wouldn't want to let the bell go behind our body. We'd want to reach it up to the ceiling, and then we can, with that reaching and that opening of the shoulder blades, we can create a sense of turning. All right, with internal rotation, it would be sort of an opposite, where we're thinking more maybe into the socket. Major muscles that are internal rotators are the lats and the pecs. A lot of times we want to bias more of the posterior musculature when we're trying to be strong, especially during kettlebell movements, so we don't let the shoulders collapse in on themselves. So we would focus on the lats, which would be felt right on the sideline of the body. So in that case, oftentimes we're going to create a good squeeze, a good grip, and think pack into the shoulder. We also might bias the hand down towards the hip, which creates an adduction moment, which is what the lat does. So we can look at packing there if that's our goal, and oftentimes that might be the goal for somebody who needs a little bit more strength, a little bit more stability, and they need to feel how to create that muscle tension and that force production in that position. Someone who's got more of a mobility limitation, we might want to create a reach and an external rotation. If we just want something to feel good and we want to go for a stretch in the front of the chest, then what we can do is just let the bell take our hand back a little bit as we move our torso more towards the ground, and we just open this whole space in the front. But what we're going to do is compress a lot on the backside. So it's just important to know that may feel good, and that's, as long as that's not painful, then it's not detrimental, but it's not improving shoulder motion back in this plane. It's not improving your horizontal abduction or external rotation. It might actually be making it a little bit worse. So it's just important to know what the intention is. So I'll demonstrate all 3 and talk through them, and then if there's any questions, please comment so we can go deeper. So we'll get on the side, try to turn my body sideways. 2 hands, roll to the back, press the bell up. All right, so if I want to bias packing my shoulder, right from here, I'm going to think about pulling my shoulder into the socket, and I'll be able to feel my right lat here. I'm going to have the left arm go overhead, and then my goal is I'm going to roll to the side, and I just want to keep my hips stacked. So as I roll to the side, I'm going to keep this left outer heel down. I'm going to touch the inside of my right foot to the ground. I'm going to keep my right foot stacked. I'm going to hang out there,
and then I'm going to breathe. So the inhale, I'm going to reach. Exhale, compress my belly, squeeze the bell more, pack the lat more, and I'm going to think about bringing the bell down towards the hip subtly, so I create a little bit of a adduction moment, which gets a little bit more lat activity, and then I'll just hang out there for several breaths. All right, and then when I come back, I also want to keep that engagement. So if I want to promote a little bit of shoulder external rotation, the difference here is I'm going to start by reaching the bell to the ceiling and try to open up the space between the shoulder blades, the upper back. Then I'm going to inhale and reach to the ceiling, and I'm going to keep everything reaching to the ceiling. I'm still going to try to keep that same stacked hip position. So my right hip right on top of the left hip. And now I'm going to inhale and just explore as much external rotation as I can get, turning the palm towards my head, but keeping a sense of reaching to the ceiling. And then I can also look at internal rotation, but I still don't want to collapse. So I'm creating more of a sense of reaching. When I exhale, still thinking belly button to the spine, ribs down, but I don't want to let the bell come into the socket. I'm keeping it reaching up towards the ceiling. And I'll do a certain amount of breaths there. And then if I just really want to go for a pec stretch, I'm going to reach across and I'm just going to let everything go and let the pelvis come in towards the ground. And then I'm basically just letting the bell stretch my shoulder, stretch the front of my chest here. All right, but I'm quite compressed on the backside, so that might feel good. And we just hang out there and let that feel good, but just understand that it's not improving the range of motion back there, but it's just a stretch in the front. So again, depending on what your intention is, you got 3 different options there. If you have any questions, please comment below. We can go deeper into it. I'll see you next time.